Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Missile Industries Found XB Fairmont Hardtop. Now, have you ever been in a situation as a car guy where you've found a little rust hole and you've gone, I wonder how bad that is? And then you start picking away at it and then you discover it's a metre long and you're going to have to do a full reconstruction of an entire scene. Well, that's where I'm at today. There was a small rust hole below where the windscreen wiper motor mounts. Sort of rust hole there, and obviously the whole thing was covered in a coat of bog. So I thought to myself, I'll just wire wheel that bog away and I'll see what lies beneath it. And unfortunately, the whole length of that cowl panel over there is full of little holes that you can't really weld up that easily. And in addition to that, this sandwich of 3 layers of steel had expanded to the extent that you couldn't get it to sit tidily. So where I'm at right now is to cut away all of that sandwich of metal, which pretty much the top cowl part is the part that's been sacrificed. The other 2 pieces of metal underneath the cowl I can probably work with. So I'm cutting away the front of the cowl where the rust is, and let's not even talk about the plenum chamber at all. And I'm going to repair this top cowl panel with these sections of X-seam mudguard, and then I'm going to weld it all in once all the holes are welded up, and then I'm going to run a smooth, fresh layer of bog over all that once it's been rust treated and primed, in anticipation of not having to address it for a few years, because as much as I could order the parts, pull this bloody cowl panel off, bearing in mind someone's welded a 3mm plate around the outsides of it with an oxyacetylene torch by the looks of it, so I'd have to cut all that away. This is not the time to address a full plenum chamber rebuild, so I'm going to fix the obvious rust that I can see now that I've looked, and I'm going to slap this motor in the car. Not in this episode. This episode is going to be about the trials and tribulations of getting this engine bay back into paint. So that's where I'm at with that. I'm going to finish doing the repairs to the best of my meagre abilities, and then I'm going to prime the engine bay, paint the engine bay, and then claim success. So hopefully I can get all of that done by this Sunday. It's the middle of the week right now, and this project is going to take a lot of extra effort, so I'm getting stuck into it early, and hopefully this engine bay's in clear coat and top coat by the end of the weekend, and I'll have something to show for my effort. Okay, progress report after a morning of cutting and shaping and drilling. I have my 3 pieces of patch metal ready to go. There's probably going to need to be a bit of finagling there because I've got to figure out how to get that contour to work, but if I have to weld in a tiny little rectangle of metal, that's fine. So I've rust treated the underlying surface areas. All these drill holes match the spot welds that I drilled out, so I should be able to weld onto those without too much drama. Plan is going to be to butt weld along that cowl panel and then use the vice grips to hold it all down, and then weld in through the spot welds, and then it should be all good. Then I will apply the bog. Actually, no, I will carefully weld it all together over probably the course of the rest of the afternoon, and then I will judiciously grind it back while I still have daylight noise making time, and then I'll hopefully put a layer of bog on all of that tonight, and tomorrow morning I will sand the shizen out of it and hope for the best. For now, it's time for me to eat some lunch. Okay, section number 1 is tacked in. I'm pretty satisfied with the way that's sitting against the cowl. I managed to maintain the line along the front there with a little bit of hammering. So once I've got everything tacked into place, I'll go through and I'll stitch it all back together again. Next up, I'm going to do this bit here. It's going to take a little bit more finessing because of all the extra contours here. I'm going to weld a piece of metal into that gap. I'm of two minds about whether I should do it while it's out or while it's in, because it's going to move around a lot. If I weld it while it's out of the car, I'm going to lose a bit of flexibility, so I'm thinking I'll just tack it in as it is and then just cut a wedge of metal out. We'll just fill it up with weld. I haven't decided yet. But either way, I've got good access to that to get the grinder on it, so I will probably just weld that in as it is and soldier on. Alright, section number 2, going to tack that in and then try to resist going full send before I weld it all in. So I'm going to tack it in at this end where it's the most vitally important that everything makes sense, and then I'll weld it towards that end there, hopefully keeping that in line with the existing cowl. And then once that's all neatened up along the top there, I'll tack it in along the bottom and hopefully it all makes sense. There might be a little bit of indiscriminate hammering in between, but so far so good. Once this gap's closed up, we'll be much happier. And all I have to do is stick that piece of metal in, and this job, well, obviously I'll have to tack everything up and then weld it all in properly. But anyway, let's get into it, to the middle part of this job. Nothing's on fire, that's great news. Nothing is on fire. Alright, that's the second chunk of metal welded in. So far so good. Some more of a gap than I would have preferred at this end here, and that end there, but I will bridge that gap with weld. Alright, all I have to do now is sort this one out. So I don't think this one's going to be as tidy because I don't have a square edge to butt everything against. I've got kind of a curved radius and it doesn't really sit well, so I might just drown this one in weld. Just got off the phone with Red Devil Radiators in Slacks Creek. They're converting my ADRAD radiator to a coolant radiator only, and they're deleting the oil cooler component of it, because we don't need that where we're going. I would be using an aftermarket cooler anyway if I still had the auto in it. But manual car, no need for a cooler, and since they're going to have it all apart anyway to refurbish it, cooler eliminated. Which is great as far as I'm concerned. Alright, last bit to tack in. This probably isn't going to be very faithful to the contour of the original panel, but hopefully only the most discerning eye will pick it up. So the plan is to just tack it along that top edge there. And there's going to be a bit of a little gap to bridge there where I've probably cut away too much metal. But I reckon I can make this work. Between the flex and the cowl and the piece of metal on the lip there, I should be able to get that reasonably flush. And what I don't get flush, bog will save. Alright, last bit welded in, and I'm pretty satisfied with that. So after I have a cup of coffee, I'm going to fill all those gaps in. Obviously those welds there will be fine as they are, plug welded along the front seam of the firewall, but I'll tack all this together and hopefully get a grinder onto it before I run out of day. And then evening, bog time. Bog time. Still nothing on fire. Check. Garage is safe to depart from. Great news. I need one more piece to complete my exhaust system. So my mandrel bends have turned up. My exhaust hangers turned up this morning. So all I need now is my eBay X pipe to turn up, and I will have the components I need to build an exhaust, which is what I'm going to do after the engine goes into this car. I'm going to knock together an exhaust using what is left of this car's exhaust system plus a whole bunch of extra bends, so I can get a merge pipe happening, because I like the merge pipe. So everything is go. It's too bad I have to go to work and do work stuff. Otherwise I'd have all that time in the world to build this car. Gotta make the money. I can only play in the garage on days where I have annual leave, and today is one of those days. Today has mainly been about sanding down the high spots, filling in some low spots. So after I sand those low spots down, I will probably go over it one more time, fill in some more low spots, and then just throw primer down. Okay, update time. I've lost track of how many days I'm up to now, 4, maybe 5, but I am ready to throw down some primer. All I need to do is go over the engine bay with some wax and grease remover, which I'm going to do next. Then I'm going to pour some primer into my spray gun and throw some primer down on this engine bay, and it will surely demonstrate how lackluster my bog work has been once there's an even coat of the same colour on everything. But it will do. I'm not really a paint and panel kind of person, so primer on all of that, and we'll just let it go dry out. So I'm going to primer all of this, all of that, and obviously in there as well, because once the main colour is in here, I'm going to paint all of that satin black around the outside, like a proper car, like a proper job. Okay, as day 5 draws to a close, the rain has arrived, and I'm about to wrap this up for the day. As you can see by that, the primer is down. I've got 2 coats of primer down. Then after a close inspection of my repair, I put down some spray putty as well, and I'll probably sand that off sometime tomorrow morning. I'm not very pleased with the way this seam appears now. It's all one colour, so I think I'm going to run some seam sealer on the front there just so it looks more uniform, because right now it looks like a badly packed kebab and I'll struggle to look at that. So I'm just going to run a bead of seam sealer on the front so it looks less shithouse. And in other news, I've done a test patch on this side of some white, so I'm going to spray some top coat onto this section here over the white and over the grey, just to see how it comes through, because I have a litre of paint to experiment with, but I'd prefer to get it all down in one go this time. So I'll sacrifice a little bit of paint, put it on here, and see if it looks better with the white behind it, because if it does, I'm going to go buy a litre of white paint to paint the engine bay white after the beige primer goes. This is beige primer and it looks just as grey as the other primer I used the other day, so the paint shop guy said it would be fine underneath, did I just say green? It would be fine underneath the top coat, and but I'm not sure, so I'm going to experiment and see if the colour pops more with a white undercoat than it does with a grey undercoat, because, damn it, I want the colour to be the colour, not in like a grey facsimile of the colour. So I'll do that soon, maybe tonight. Maybe I'm not wrapping things up at all tonight, maybe I'm going to do other stuff after dinner. Sanding, painting, trip to Bunnings for more stirring sticks. So that's where we're at. Alright, as day 6 draws to a close, I have put a line of sealant along that seam, and I've put more primer over the top of it. And because I have to wait 24 hours before I can do top coat will happen tomorrow. Now from where I'm standing, you might be able to get a tiny hint of the colour that's going to go down tomorrow. I'm not going to spell it out just yet. When you see it come out of the gun, all will be revealed. In other news, I've spent the rest of my day cleaning up the headers, those rusty headers that came with the car. I don't know what they are, genie extractors or something, but there was a thick layer of rust and tractor shed grunge on them, and I've cleaned them up and given them a paint. Let's go outside and check them out. So I have the merge pipe and the headers and the mufflers. After I painted the primer this morning, I pretty much decided I was going to salvage the exhaust system and see what I was keeping and what I was getting rid of. And while I was at it, I pulled the merge pipe out of its packaging to have a look at it. And it looks pretty good. The opening's only very small, so it's pretty much going to be like I guess you call it a pulse merge. So pretty pleased with the way things have gone today on day 6. I've also painted my brake hard lines matte black, so no longer a mixture of bare metal yellow and black, so they're all the same colour. So tomorrow top coat time, hopefully before lunchtime. We'll see how we go. We've got a lot of painting I need to get done tomorrow, and I would really like to smash that top coat on, get a clear coat over it, and do the satin black surround, but we'll just wait and see how we go, shall we? Okay, it's day 7, top coat painting day. Now it's still the morning, so it's time to talk about the colour I've chosen. As evidenced by the green paint all over this litre tin, I've chosen lime green, because I've always wanted to paint a car in lime green. And years ago I had a mate that had a lime green XY GT Falcon replica, and it looked great. I always looked at the colour and went, that looks so nice. And then I went to start to try and find what the paint code for budget green was. From what I could gather, budget green was the paint colour, and I couldn't find it. And then I thought to myself, it's near on indistinguishable from the colour of a motorcycle I had in 2006, which was also the same shade of lime green. So I looked up that paint code, and that paint code was easy to find. So I took the paint code Kawasaki Lime Green 617 to Hart's paint shop in Slacks Creek and asked them if they could produce it. The first guy said, no, we don't have that code, and the second guy went, yes, we do. We have one formula to match that, so we can mix some up for you. So I bought a litre of it, and I brought it home, and today I'm going to throw it down on this engine bay and just see what it looks like. Lunchtime. So obviously my main areas of concern were the strut towers and the cowl that goes over the plenum, because those are the visual points that you see. Strut towers, plenum cowl, maybe these bits here. So as long as the paint is in good shape on those items there, the overall effect for the engine bay will be positive. So they've got very good gloss on those items, and I haven't gotten too orange peely, so I'm pretty happy with that. Pretty pleased with the way that's gone. So that'll do. Okay, summary time for episode 13 of Mr. Industries XB Ford Fairmont Hardtop project 351. And from here, that paint looks great. The gloss from the clear coat has done it justice, and I'm pretty satisfied with that. So here is the point where we wrap everything up. Right now all I'm waiting on is my radiator to come back, but that's not going to stop me from putting the car together in the episodes coming up, because pretty much the only thing holding me back from assembling this car with the engine and the gearbox and all the other bits and bobs was finalising a paint for the engine bay. And I'm pretty happy with that, even if the car ends up a different colour, which it probably won't. Probably going to be green. I did contemplate Daytona Violet, but probably not. But engine bays being one colour and cars being another colour is a thing at the moment, and I'd be quite happy for that green engine bay to stay. And I'm looking forward to getting my Ford 351 engine and all of my reconditioned goodies back into that bay just to see what it looks like. So I'm pretty happy with that, and on that note I'll wrap this up until next time.